So please, I would like to ask Mr. Gregory Nakos from EY to take us through the technology now portion of our event. And he's going to talk about, are you securely riding the digitalization wave in the shipping industry? Gregory, you have, please don't exceed your time if you can. Έχεις το... Από εδώ. Και εδώ είναι το ρολόι, so you can... Thank you.
So, good morning to everyone. Moving on to technology, quite a different subject. I hope I don't take you into too deep waters, still early in the morning. But nevertheless, the shipping industry is going through a digital transformation wave, and it's our great pleasure to be here today and share with you what we are seeing happening in this space. Before diving into it, I think it's important to consider what are the key drivers for this digital transformation. One could list many reasons, but I think most of you will agree that among the top reasons are for sure being in a position to operate more efficiently and more profitably. These typically go together. Being in a position to be more and better connected, and if I may add, more and better informed. An interesting one is keeping up with customers, and I would add the greater ecosystem of suppliers and regulators that are becoming more and more sophisticated and really expecting to communicate on a more digital basis. And of course, digital brings the opportunity for developing new business models, new offerings, new products. Over the next few slides, I'll be going through 3+1 key areas in which we see developments happening, also drawing from other industries. But as I go through these topics, I'm sure most of you will have this question in mind. So what is the shipping industry ready to absorb? And I think it's important to note that at least at EY, we recognize that not every shipping company has the same needs. Not everyone is at the same level of maturity. And for sure, we're not suggesting that everything is relevant to everyone. We're not suggesting that everything is feasible and realistic to happen at the same time. At EY, we see digital transformation as being more of a gradual journey, or maybe should I be saying more of a voyage. So the first area in which we see significantly a shift is the replacement of legacy custom solutions with more standardized commercial off-the-shelf solutions. So the shipping industry is an industry in which custom solutions exist to a greater extent than in other industries. Custom solutions are generally harder to develop and more costly to develop. And also more difficult to maintain and keep up to date over time. These days, leading vendors in the markets offer standardized solutions covering primarily core functionality. So just to list a few, we're seeing electronic mailing and content management systems being deployed, offering more advanced capability to communicate and collaborate, also having smart tagging and so on. We're seeing a lot of deployments of ERP systems. So these systems covering the core financial, procurement, and asset management processes. We're also seeing enterprise performance management systems really being put in place to be able to handle the budgeting, planning, and in certain cases, financial consolidation in a more automated and coordinated manner. And online booking platforms are gradually becoming more relevant, especially for those companies that wish to have a more direct approach to customers and also possibly attract new customers based on the simplicity and speed of booking. These are just examples of areas or components in which Solutions do exist in the market, and it really doesn't make sense to go reinventing the wheel or continue investing in custom solutions. The second area in which we are seeing a lot of traction picking up is really the adoption of solutions, tools, and approaches which will enable your companies to become more data-driven. So business intelligence, big data, analytics are really tools, approaches, and techniques which we have seen in other industries for many years. But it's interesting that they are now becoming more and more relevant within the shipping industry. So these tools enable one to collect and better organize data, starting from both internal and external data that to a great extent existed in shipping companies but was maybe more difficult to access and more difficult to analyze. But I think it's becoming more relevant because these tools and these techniques lately are enabling shipping companies to be able to collect additional data. So, for example, telemetry data capturing the consumption and the state of the vessel from sensors that are starting to be installed on the vessels, but also weather forecast and hindcast data, which is online available through external APIs. So having such data at hand and being in a position to analyze it through simple or even more complex techniques gives the opportunity to have at hand very interesting insights and really gives a wide range of opportunities, both for revenue enhancement, but also cost containment. Just to mention a few examples, starting from the ability to be able to apply dynamic pricing and ultimately optimize the entire contract portfolio, but also in terms of being able to optimize vessel routing, vessel performance, and even predictive maintenance. One of the most interesting engagements within EY with a local Greek shipping company is something that is one of the most exciting things I've worked on recently. So what they are looking to do is really use such information to be able to simulate the voyage in advance, to be able to apply more educated pricing. Once the voyage has commenced, to be able to make this information available on the vessel, on board, to be able to optimize routing based on weather, based on depth. It's surprising how the depth of the water can affect fuel consumption, and to be able to adjust speed and trimming accordingly. And last but not least, once the voyage has been completed, to be able to sort of compare predicted versus actual, to be able to identify possible deviances from the plan, and to be able to identify what is the root cause of any such deviances. And of course, these are just examples of what potential data brings to an organization. Data is considered to be a significant asset for any organization these days. Thirdly, when talking about innovation and cutting-edge solutions, and this is across industry, there's a lot of talk these days about robotic process automation and more recently blockchain technology. I really don't want to bore you with the mechanics behind these technologies and these solutions, but I think it's important to state that a lot of the applications which are considered and piloted for these technologies are very, very relevant for the industry. So these technologies are very much about being in a position to reduce processes that have a lot of manual overhead, and also being able to put in place solutions that would increase transparency, especially in situations where there are SLAs involved. Just to mention a few indicative applications in which we are seeing and also participating in pilot projects, within the shipping industry. We are looking to address aspects like increasing end-to-end tracking and transparency within the supply chain, also being able to automate custom clearance, also touching on fraud aspects, and also insurance and claims is also an area of high interest when talking about such aspects. I mentioned that I'll be referring to 3+1 areas. So this fourth area is the +1. The reason it's +1 is because it is relevant across the areas previously touched on, and it's relevant across the entire IT landscape, whether it is systems onshore, whether it is systems on board, or even cargo systems. I'm sure most of you will have heard that within the past few years, a number of Greek shipping companies have been hit by ransomware. Ransomware can be both costly but also very disruptive for operations. Okay, so we are seeing that cybersecurity is really going to be becoming more and more relevant across systems, across data. So on this, we would like to share with you some quite interesting insights from the Global Information Security Survey conducted by EY. I don't know whether it comes as a surprise, but not even 1 in 10 organizations can state that they are covering cybersecurity in a way that really meets their needs. Almost 2/3 of companies, and this is across industry, are planning to invest more going forward in terms of improving this and really optimizing cybersecurity. But I think, at least from our standpoint, the most interesting is the last point, which says that not even half of companies consider protecting from such threats as being part of the strategy. And really the point we really consider important to bring across is that if you are to enable growth through digital technology especially, and when considering emerging technologies, really cybersecurity has to be at the top of the agenda at the executive level, and for sure it has to be an integral part of any digital transformation initiative. Before closing, I thought it would be important to refer to certain barriers, and really I don't really want to go into discussion whether barriers exist or whether they are just perception, but I think, truth be said, the adoption has really been slow. So for sure resistance to change is something normal. Our comment on this is that it is normal as long as one makes sure that the developments do not put you in a place where you fall behind. Return on investment is also always a very important question. In the previous slides, I referred to innovation. If one is to engage in innovation, one needs to be prepared to take risks, and I think the shipping industry is very much about taking risks, but also be prepared to fail. You cannot innovate if you do not have this attitude. And really, the point brought across here is that ROI is important, not necessarily just at the beginning, but it's something that has to be measured, has to be tracked over time, sort of moving into a quick fail approach. People and skills is a very important and interesting point. So technology and digitalization is very much about putting new tools in the hands of people to be able to do their job better. And you do need quite talented people to be able to use technology in order to generate value. At EY, we really see this on a daily basis. It's very difficult to find and attract talented people, but talented people really look at joining companies, not just because they remain relevant, but more and more they are looking at joining companies that are at the forefront of technology. So this is something that we consider important, and we consider that it should not be in any case underestimated. And last, we also see companies really being slow in moving, simply because it's not always clear where to start and how to progress. So we seriously think that we can help shipping companies on this journey. And closing, please allow me to say a few words about EY. So we are a global leader with almost $35 billion revenue globally, over 260,000 professionals worldwide, integrated across 150 countries. A lot of you may know us from the assurance, the audit part of our services, or possibly having worked with us on tax or transaction advisory services. Moving into the digitalization era, it's important for us that you know that we can also help in this space through our advisory services. In Greece, we have been present since 1926, and we hold the first position in the market, both across these 4 service lines, but also as a standalone advisory practice, being recognized, among other things, for our innovation services. We also have global strategic alliances with all the leading technology vendors, including IBM, SAP, and Microsoft. However, I would like to note that we follow what we call a vendor-agnostic approach. So the way we operate is we look to match the appropriate solution to the exact customer needs, rather than trying to fit customer needs to the specifics of a single solution, with whatever compromise that brings. So with this, I would like to thank you for your time and attention, and really we are looking forward to having more conversations around these topics with those who are interested. Thank you very much again.